Hello and welcome to North 100, a Canadian Highlander podcast. I'm Serge. Joining me today, I've got a Nelly.
Yo, I'm here.
I've got a Wheeler.
Hello.
Shout out to James on Tech.
I'm eating Doritos.
Focus, man, focus. I don't know why I said that. You enjoy those Doritos, my friend. And a reminder that everything we do is brought to you by you with your support of the Patreon over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. That right there is Doritos money, and we appreciate it. We're here for part one of our Bloomburrow set review. This is a bit of a shorter one after the slog that was Modern Horizons 3, our first ever four-parter. This is going to be a two-parter. Today we're going to talk about white, blue, black, and red cards. A reminder about our set reviews. These are not exhaustive. We're not going to talk about every single card in the set, just the ones that we think are relevant to the format. We're also focusing on a couple of standouts from the Commander product. And I believe with Bloomburrow, there's no like supplementary other product or like secret vault or anything else that adds other cards. It's just the main set in the Commander product.
Not with new cards.
Okay.
At least there are some special guests and some imagined critters, but those are all reprints.
All reprints. And
No,
like Tree Karn, right?
no vault.
Yes. Yeah.
Shout out to Tree Karn.
All right. Without further ado, Wheeler, start us off, please.
Dewdrop Cure. 2 and a white for a sorcery with gift a card. Gift a blank is a new mechanic in this set where when this card is getting cast, you may promise an opponent a gift as you cast this spell. If you do, they receive that gift before its other effects. So in this case, you gift them a card. So before any of the other text on this card that I'm about to read happens, they would draw a card, but only upon resolution.
Yeah.
It's almost like an additional cost. You go, pretty please let this resolve.
But it's not an Eldrazi trigger.
Yeah.
No.
And also
Yeah.
importantly, they don't draw the card and then get to decide to counter your spell. It's part of resolution.
Right. It's
So
it's text that is added to the card. And the other text on this card is return up to 2 target creature cards with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to play. If the gift was promised, instead return up to 3 target creature cards with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. We've received a couple of versions of this card. This one, I think I like the most. I wouldn't compare it to something like Savine's Reclamation, where you can get back, well, just a land.
Or Time
or
Vault.
Time Vault.
Yeah.
Crucible Worlds, you name it. But this one has some nice added utility with the third creature. Because if you're returning 2 small creatures, that could be Amalia and Wildgrowth Walker, Devoted Druid and Vizier of Remedies.
Yep.
You could get back Samwise Gamgee and Sack Outlet and then have your Cauldron Familiar in the graveyard or whatever, right? Like this is absolutely a assemble your creature combo card. When you gift the card, that third creature, importantly, is going to be either, in some cases, it'll be like a third piece of the puzzle, but it could just be a Grand Abolisher or a Sylvan Safekeeper or a Dauntless Bodyguard, maybe, Benevolent Bodyguard. It can be your protection piece, and that's pretty big. I think these decks only want 1, or in some rare cases, 2 copies of this kind of effect, and this first copy is usually just like reanimate, the like very flexible, like I need to snag my combo piece back. But if you're going to include another one for your creature combo deck, as long as your creature combo is 2 or less, this card's a totally reasonable inclusion.
That was very thorough. Next up, Nelly.
Let's talk about Essence Channeler. This is 1 and a white for a 2/1 Bat Cleric. As long as you've lost life this turn, Essence Channeler has flying and vigilance. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Essence Channeler. And when Essence Channeler dies, put its counters on target creature you control. So, really interesting little workhorse here in a +1/+1 counters, or Black-White Ruin Your Evening, or just any aggressive white deck. If you are already jamming multiple colors and have all of the fetches losing life on your own turn,
So free, right?
is pretty easy to get. Flying and vigilance together is great. But where this deck really shines is going to be any deck that's gaining life regularly. So paired with the creature combos that use Heliod, or the decks that just say I gain life all the time as part of my strategy. And then you can have a big thing that gives another big thing if you somehow manage to lose a creature to any spell other than Path to Exile or Sword Splashers, which has happened in a game of Canadian Highlander. I'm
Once or
told.
twice, yeah.
Yeah.
It is nice that if you play this in a Soul Warden deck and it dies, you just put all those counters on the Soul Warden. Like, you're already a deck that's playing a bunch of little duders running
Yep.
around. And there's also 7 2-mana Ajani's Pridemates at this point in paper. Like,
Is this...
that's real density.
This is templated slightly different from the Ajani's Primate, because the Ajani's gain life equal, or gain +1/+1s equal to the amount of life, not each instance of life's gain, or am I mistaken about that?
It depends,
No.
right?
Which one am I thinking
There's
of?
some
You're
that
thinking
say
of
that,
Sun
right?
Bond.
Okay.
There are enchantments that are templated like that.
Sure.
Typically, it may be one larger creature, but typically the 2 drops are
It's one or more.
when you gain
Okay.
life, do thing.
Okay.
I also just like this card as like a way to win the game immediately if you get the Finks combo that just like gains you any of the you gain infinite life, like by gaining some life an infinite number of times. If you have this, then you can also just attack them.
Sick.
Yes.
I don't know if we have anything else to
No,
say
yeah,
about
no.
it. Yeah,
All
it's
right.
good for those purposes.
Next up, we have the Jackdaw Savior. This is a 3-mana 3/1 bird cleric for 2 and a white. It's got idiot bird mana. It flies, and whenever Jackdaw Savior or another creature you control with flying dies, return another target creature card with lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is obviously a very powerful effect. We've seen it in artifact decks before with Scrap Trawler, the 3-mana 3/2. And I just want to build this with Luminous Broodmoth. Luminous Broodmoth is a 4-mana creature that whenever a creature you control dies, if it didn't have flying, return it to the battlefield with a flying counter, and then you have this as the other half. Basically, I don't know, I look at this card and I want to put it in a recurring nightmare style deck that you have creatures changing zones over and over and over, but it's probably also fine in just like a blue-white flying deck just for a little bit of redundancy. It's a pretty good body, like 3-mana 3/1s with flying. Better with flash are a staple in this format for killing people, and the ability to just get free recursion is huge. I do want to do something more degenerate than just play it as a mid-range card, and I think that's where it's going to shine, but it's going to be fun. I want to brew with this. This gets my brewing brain thinking.
I like the idea of pairing with a Sack Outlet and Luminous Broodmoth, like sort of.
That might be Magical Christmas Land a little.
It goes with Infinite with Safi.
Yeah, I mean it's okay to like.
Does it as well?
Well, you sack Safi, target the Jackdaw, sack the Jackdaw, it dies, returning Safi, and then comes back to play as per Safi's ability.
Interesting.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's infinite ETBs right there.
Plus
And +1/+1 counters on your carrying
plus
feeder.
sacrifice outlet
Yeah.
plus thing that cares about things dying equals UN. I think it's okay to plan for like the value of 4-card combos in the like creatures plus creature tutors decks.
Sure.
It's okay.
Sometimes you just get enough density of the things that work together that you're like, oops.
It is nice that this thing that dies to Orcish Bowmasters at least will return something else that dies to Orcish Bowmasters.
Yeah, I guess. Man, we used to worry about Krakus all the time. Now you have to worry about your X1s just dying.
That sounded
still
like
worry about
a
Krakus.
criticism.
like
but
dies to Bolt Bird or whatever.
I'm genuine.
Dies
I
to
think this
Bird.
card just returning like a Luminarch Aspirant is pretty good. The fact that the aggressive white decks, I mean, Ancient 2-man is pretty big, and the aggressive white decks play a bunch of flyers. Or for the real OGs out there, this is also a cleric. So it goes in the critically acclaimed cleric
Don't start.
clan Friarworks.
Don't let him finish.
Cleric creature combo deck, because Aura is the 4-mana cleric that has this line of text, but for clerics. And this happens to be a cleric. So you can make some sick loops with that.
Oh my god.
Aura's also a fly. Actually, you might be able to do... Hold on 1 second. The
Wheeler
brain's
would still be
ticking.
brewing new decks today if Magic had ended at Legions. He'd just be
This
like,
is-
it's fine. We have enough cards.
You need a second to cook. You want to move on?
No, I just wanted to get in our per episode complaint about how quickly new sets come out, because I need time to cook.
Right.
I need
The
to
burners are just warming up.
I need to slow this roast down, you know?
I'm looking forward to seeing clerics on FNPF.
Oh,
No,
let's
we can go to the Yowie Rabbit.
That's you, buddy.
Jacked Rabbit. X 1 and a white for a 1/2 Rabbit Warrior with Ravenous. For those that don't remember Warhammer 40,000, Ravenous says this creature enters with X 1/1 counters on it, and if X is 5 or more, you draw a card when it enters. Whenever Jacked Rabbit attacks, you create a number of 1/1 white rabbit creature tokens equal to Jacked Rabbit's power. This one is obviously very funny to look at because rabbit big, squash with squash.
Shout out to playtest names making it all the way to print.
Yeah. But like the more I look at it, the more I'm kind of into this card. It has a big
Bunny. Yes, we see it.
yes, I know there's a large rabbit. Krenko.
I cannot lie.
Krenko, the War of the Spark Krenko. That's like a 3 mana.
1/2 trigger when it attacks.
When it attacks, when it attacks, you put a counter on it, and then you make idiots equal to its power. Except this is not a legend. This is 1 mana cheaper if you just want to play this out as a 1/2 that whenever it attacks, you make a 1/1. And can scale super well with your fast mana. So your mana crypts, your soul rings, like drawing this late game in a mono white deck, or even like a green white tokens deck that has access to Mana Dorks and Gaia's Cradle. Like you could make a Jacked Rabbit. Like this card, and if this card starts holding like a Shadow Spear or a Skull Clamp, anything to modify the power is pretty sick.
How do we feel about this card against the spot in these decks that currently belongs to Adeline? She's legendary, but her power is higher, basically.
That's
right?
a 4-drop, the 4 mana
No,
3/4?
It's 1 white for an X4 legendary human knight or soldier.
Yeah.
And when it attacks, you make a 1/1 white creature that's attacking.
When you attack.
Right, not when it attacks, when anybody attacks. So it gets to get the first one for free.
3 mana one?
Yeah,
I thought that
Adeline's
was-
only 3
Jeez,
mana.
Okay.
There's another one 4 mana, Murel, that is similar.
I think I was confusing
Yeah.
it with Mural. Well, I mean, I
But-
guess it has the advantage that Wheeler was talking before. It's not legendary.
Yeah, Adeline's. I said that. Oh wait, no, so
No, I
did you.
also
We both
said
did. Right. We both did. Anyways, I don't know. I just feel like I've been playing a bunch of games lately where I can't help it. Caracas always ruins me, so I've been thinking a lot about options
That
for
card just
the
keeps-
current popular cards.
That card just keeps getting better and better every set they print.
It's just this card's fine as a 2-drop, and it's fine as like a 5-drop or a
Yep.
4-drop.
Right.
And you can modify its power and toughness pretty easy in the deck, so it would want this kind of card, and it makes things that you could Skull Clamp, but if you're not a monster, you could just use those little 1/1s to trample over your opponent with, some large token payoff, or okay, fine, you can Skull Clamp the rabbit.
I want to answer, actually, I'm going to give you the Wheeler answer, Nelson, to like, should I cut the other card for this 2-drop? You play them all.
Yeah, just play them both.
Play them both. Just play 400 cards.
All right, let's move on.
Now it's time to look at Parting Gust. White for an instant that says gift a tapped fish. Instead of a card, you may promise a 1/1 blue fish creature token that enters tapped before the other effects. Exile target non-token creature. If the gift wasn't promised, return that creature to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on at the beginning of the next end step. So pretty cool. Couple of different cards in one here, right? It's help me out. The really bad one from Kaldheim that's white. Take their thing out, but they can put something in play.
Divine Gambit.
In my brain, I see Divine Gambit with the great momentary blink from Kamigawa that I've also
Otherworldly
Thank you. I
Journey.
knew you'd remember that one. Yeah. So Otherworldly Journey and Divine Gambit kind of making a little souffle here together. You can target your own creatures to muck their removal, and then you get your creature back at the end of the turn slightly larger, or you can just get rid of their creatures, and now they have fish instead. And this is only 2 mana, so honestly, sure, it only targets creatures, so like Generous Gift, Beast Within have relevance there, but 2 mana, exile any non-token creature of theirs, and now they have a fish. That's not too shabby.
I don't hate this in specifically like initiative decks.
Yeah.
Has a little bit of flexibility because you're looking to sort of like abuse the initiative that much and blink your creatures anyways, and just in case you're a little bit worried about something, you have that flexibility. But man, it's tough because specifically it's in white and you just have such good removal already.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I don't immediately have a home for this thing, but I do like that the flexibility doesn't cost more mana. Like the fact that it's like they get a 1/1 if you don't want their thing to come back, or don't worry about the 1/1 if you're just targeting your own Omnath, with this effect to rebuy the ETB. I don't know.
Cool. All right, last white card we're going to talk about is the Salvation Swan. This is a 4-mana 3/3 bird cleric, another cleric. For 3 and a white, it has flying and flash. And whenever the Salvation Swan or another bird you control enters, exile up to 1 target creature you control without flying. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter on it at the beginning of the next end step. So this is a new Restoration Angel, which a card we haven't really seen an equivalent to since Avacyn Reborn? Restored? Avacyn Restored. That's what that set was called. I just remember AVR. I am very excited to play with this. I love flicker effects. I don't think I'm casting it for retail all that often. I'm probably going to be putting it into the aforementioned Recurring Nightmare deck. So, you get to bring this back and then flicker one of the creatures you're already doing. But yeah, this style of card has been a staple in the format for a very long time. I think they're starting to fall out of favor a little bit as the format has sped up, but the another bird you control clause giving you even more value on your ETB is pretty cool, because there's quite a few idiot birds in our format that can just now give you some incremental additional value, pardon me. Only downside when comparing it to Restoration Angel, because somebody will probably say, but Restoration Angel's a 3/4. So those do kill and eat like your Vendilion Cliques. There's a lot of 3/1s in the format, so a 3/3 means it might trade, but the additional upside or simply play both is pretty spicy.
How many birds can you name that you would play alongside this card?
Of Paradise. Kill the Goose.
2.
Yeah.
Those are my 2.
Oh my god, what's Idiot Bird's actual name?
Even Mind Sensor?
Haven Mind Sensor is an actual bird?
Yes.
Bird Wizard.
Bird Wizard.
Bird Wizard. I mean,
You're
that's
probably not playing with this card.
No, you're right. Well, unless you're playing specifically a flash deck. Like I was playing against Angel, and Angel was in like Esper all the flash cards, and I could see her playing both, but probably not the birds, not like the mana birds.
Yeah, I think this card just doesn't do. The thing about Resto Angel is it's an immediate flicker. It survives things, and non-Angel is like, who cares?
Right? It has come up.
It does, yeah.
But it's less relevant than without flying.
It shows up when you're like, oh, I can't Karmic Guide loop or whatever.
Yeah.
But like without flying is kind of awkward because, you can't even get the value flicker your Ice Fang Codal or Baleful Strix, which feels kind of bad. And next end step, like there are certain spots where that is helpful, but more often than not, it is like a liability.
You know what?
Yeah, you're not restoing into double block.
No, you're right. I didn't even. When you read something, it doesn't register in your brain, because I was reading the card I wanted it to be.
Yeah, like weirdly, this card really does want to see it in like bird tribal or like just some sort of bird package so that you're able to abuse this trigger, because there's no more mana. It's just a bird enters, right? So if you have like a bunch of creatures and you're able to like play birds, get flicker effects.
Once again, now you had 2 very good birds to mention.
Yeah. How many
Name
other good
more
birds?
Yeah, I
birds.
know.
Yeah.
No, we already did it, right? Like Baleful Strix.
Can't
Ice Fang
do it.
Codal's not even a bird.
Not a bird.
Baleful Strix
It's
is a
a
bird.
snake.
Baleful Strix is a bird,
Yeah,
but
and
you
then-
can't even
You can't
flicker.
target it. Yeah.
Oh god,
But it flickers the other.
No,
ones.
but those 4 all target your Elvish Visionary or whatever.
Okay.
They all
so
target your Craterhoof Behemoth. Lol.
when we have this card out, if we draw exactly Baleful Strix.
Okay,
we can
so
flicker.
look, we're cooking this Salvation Swan for Magical Christmas Land Feast.
All right, real quick question though. Yorion is also end step, right?
Yorion?
Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the thing. You mentioned last time, or like there hasn't been a new Resto Angel, and we haven't seen Resto Angels, I think, since Season Dungeoneer was printed, unfortunately, right? It's like so hard to fit even regular Resto into lists. Like, have you seen a Resto on the stack or Battlefield lately?
No,
I have
that's what
not
I was going to
read-
say.
yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is
Tough.
If you're doing like
It's
a
tough out
Kiki
there for
Pod
Resto.
deck, like
Yeah,
That's what I was
maybe.
going to say. Creature combo or like
some.
dedicated flicker, yes, but like the days of value Resto Angel.
You used to just see Resto Angel in every
it was
deck
just
that
so
had
free.
white mana.
It was so free.
Yeah.
You could like against the control decks, you could just flash it in late. You could protect
when
your
you are
creatures
the
from
control deck,
removal.
you can just flash it in.
Yeah,
when you don't
yeah.
have it as well.
Long gone are the days where my 4 mana up means, am I playing around Resto Angel or am I playing around Ojutai's command?
Oh, yeah.
or War Leader's Helix.
All right, I'm lower on the Swan now. Thanks, Wheeler.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's move on.
Happy to bring a dour mood to...
Reading the card depresses the player.
Oh, that's a good button.
Thanks.
Dourport Mage is our first blue card. 1 and a blue for a 1/3 Frog Wizard. With whenever one or more other creatures you control leave the battlefield without dying, draw a card.
The Swan.
And then pay 1 and a blue, tap, return another target creature you control to its owner's hand. I like this frog. It is a card that technically doesn't do anything without another creature, but even if you just have a mana dork or whatever lying around, being able to return to your hand to just draw a card and also just chump block infinitely is pretty nice. I'm a little more forgiving to these kind of cards that are like wonky engine pieces when they are 2 mana and when they are a single pip of mana, which is kind of nice. It's also a wizard, which I've been obsessed with wizards as of late. We just get so many wizards.
Have been getting a little bit better, brick by brick, page by page of the spell book.
There will be a North 100 showdown where I bring Wizard Pod to not the crap shot that we've done before with the Wizard Podcast. But I mean, like, you could pod into your Spell Seeker to find your Molten duplication, to copy your Spell Seeker to find your Molten duplication.
Is this a good deck or Memes and Moxon's deck?
I don't need a good deck to beat you two, but I do need a card like Dourport Mage. I'm sorry.
Can't wait to say. I guess I'm bolting Dourport Mage.
Yeah. Then we're earning our keep,
right?
I mean, I like this in a Flicker deck too.
Yeah,
like Bant Flicker. All right, Nelly.
Eddie Merc Crab, 5 blue for a 5/5 elemental crab with flash, and this spell costs 1 generic less to cast for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. Eddie Merc Crab enters tapped if it's not your turn. When Eddie Merc Crab enters, tap up to 2 target creatures. Okay, so not Sailor's Bane. Sailor's Bane is still the king of the cheaper with spells in your yard squad. Also not getting doesn't play well with the delve cards as well. Sometimes we get that. The instant sorceries have to be in your graveyard. Nevertheless, an option for large creature that you play late game in the blue-red spells deck. And it's got this kind of cool trigger where instead of flash blocking, you can you can still play with flash, so you don't have to play it on your own turn if you want to have counterspell action or just interacting with their stuff on their turn. And you get to tap their attackers, or even maybe tap their mana dorks in upkeep if you want. So, yeah, some interesting stuff. I never play these ones. I always just play the cheap prowess creatures. But I think Sailor's Bane is a good card.
You don't like Sailor's Bane?
I feel like we missed the mark on Sailor's Bane.
Oh,
I
really?
was high on it, and then I'm like,
overvalued,
that is so... 7 colorless, though.
Okay,
it's
so too many spells. They count them in exile, though, right?
Yeah, but then you just kind of get a dork that gets chump blocked.
All right.
I mean, this also gets chump blocked. I like this one because this doesn't feel bad to pay 4 mana for.
Sure,
right?
because you may be fogged or whatever, or you shut down their attack.
Yeah.
If this ever keeps them from getting the initiative back, you're like, whatever.
Or it just kills a planeswalker.
Sure.
Like, that's pretty hot.
All right, so real quick.
Yeah.
You know how I kept my eye on food for a very long time, and we eventually got the payoff for it? I'm keeping my eye on Elemental. I just need you to know. Put a mark here. I've mentioned it a little bit in the previous sets. There's a lot of Elementals here. There's nothing that says Elementals matter, but... Elemental.
I think your Elementals deck, though, won't have, like, infinity instants and sorceries in it. It's going to have a lot of creatures.
We'll see. More tools matters,
now
right?
I'm keeping my eye on crabs.
Wheeler talked about Cleric. I'm glad you're keeping your eye on crabs, Wheeler.
Every other creature type seems to eventually evolve into crab.
Oh, my God. Snap Crabster Mage? Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have a deck for this to go into, but I agree. I think it could be a fine thing that you try.
Yeah, it's like... How bad does it feel to like actually tap 4 mana for like Cryptic Serpent or whatever? Does not feel on your own turn.
Yeah, it feels
does not
bad.
feel great. But if you're doing 4 mana on your opponent's end step or beginning of combat, like that does feel a bit better. And also, that's not the like Magical Christmas Land. Like this card, there are spots where this card will cost 2 mana, but if you're trying to make a middle of the road evaluation, it's still just like
only 4.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 Ponder, 1 Remand, 1 Fire Ice.
I
and
am
it's 4 mana.
definitely going to try this out in Bant Beans, like the Bant
Okay.
Beans
Oh,
control
I like
deck.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Into the Flood Maw. This is a 1-mana instant that includes Gift a tapped fish. Return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. If the gift was promised, instead return target non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. In the world of cheap, disruptive unsummons, we have a new contender.
I mean,
I'm
it's
just,
also
I'm just
Chain
double
of
checking
Vapor.
for the word opponent in each one of these cases. So you don't have the
Yeah.
flexibility to also like save your own stuff here, but man, getting rid of a planeswalker, getting rid of I mean nobody's played Moat in a very long time, but just like, getting rid of a Blood Moon or a Back to Basics, like those are getting some play like that. Like this gives you a tremendous amount of flexibility.
I mostly just see it getting rid of any of those creatures that say you can only cast 1 spell per turn, or you can't, or the player has hexproof.
Yeah.
Interacting with any Leyline of Sanctity type effects, because I don't know how many Boomer Storm lists still play Void Snare, but everyone was all over that card when it was printed back. I know that was a different game back then, but
You still play Chain of Vapor,
Right.
And you lose the ability to like Chain of Vapor your own Grim Monolith or like Moxen for additional Storm with this. But that happens, so that's just not. No, what happens is you Chain of Vapor their thing and you kill them.
Right.
And this kind of does that. This is a bit of a vintage tech, but the fact that you can give them a fish and then have Oath of Druids is kind of hot.
Oh my god, that's so
if you're on
funny.
Oath of Druids Storm, this is
Yeah.
like your new favorite card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we have it in some control matchups as a way to get around some of the really pesky pieces that people have, and I think also like mono blue flying men tempo.
Yeah, I don't mind this for flying men. I think I might play like Rona's Vortex is really good. Vapor Snag kills people.
And that Innistrad one lets you surveil or whatever, or scry one.
The Fading Hope.
Yeah, Fading Hope.
So like if I need an additional one to like I don't know. Like I don't care about Blood Moon.
But this is mostly for combo then, eh?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's primarily
mostly, I
a
think so.
combo card.
Sick.
Yeah. Chain of Vapor option.
All right, Wheeler.
Speaking of flying men, we have Long River's Pull. A blue instant, gift a card, counter target creature spell. If the gift was promised, instead counter target spell. So I hate giving my opponents cards more than basically anything. I want to draw cards. I don't want them to draw cards. But if I'm playing this in Flying Men that is looking to play as many like reasonable counter spells as it can, because I will absolutely play the garbage ones too. But if I can just like snag your creature with this card, I'm okay. But I'm not going to play Essence Scatter.
Right.
And so if I'm like in a spot where I'll give you a card because I want to counter your
die
Teferi
otherwise,
Time
right?
Raveler, your Minskimbu, your Comet, whatever, like your Paradox Engine, right? Like most of the time I just want to counter your creatures anyways. But if I have to give you a card to counter whatever, I'm okay doing that because I'm already restricting your mana so that you're only playing 1 card a turn. So the difference between an opponent whose mana is being attacked having 3 cards and having 7 cards is like kind of negligible. Yeah. So I think I will try it in exactly Flying Men, or if something happens and Blue-Green Sorensen becomes a
about to
deck
say,
again,
yeah.
then I'll try it there.
Yeah, it seems like a very traditional tempo style of card.
When you are not playing red or white or black,
Yeah.
is the problem.
Even blue green swords, and it's like we're already jamming negate. We have green creatures, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, Nelly, you're up.
Let's talk about Mockingbird. X blue for a 1/1 bird bard with flying, and you may have Mockingbird enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield with mana value less than or equal to the amount of mana spent to cast Mockingbird, except it's a bird in addition to its other types, and it has flying. So Merit Lage already has flying anyway, but your opponent spent like 4 cards and several mana to make it, and now you also have a 20/20 indestructible. You can stare at each other and wait until one of you draws your Caracas first. And there might even be other uses for this card, like I don't know, also paying 1 blue to get a 4/1 flying menace skeleton after your opponent goes through the initiative farther than it's going to matter, and you're going to lose the game no matter what now anyway. I don't know if like clones are a weird part of the game. This isn't exactly a 2-mana clone, which I know that like you, or even a 3-mana clone, you've said for forever that you'd really love to get.
Well, it is kind of nice
close,
that if X is 3, then this is technically the first 4-mana clone I think we've gotten in a while, Serge. Is that correct?
I will have to check the tapes. I'm not sure.
You gotta let him go.
I don't
on
know
that
how
one.
many. I don't know how many
No,
4-mana
never.
clones there have been in the history of Magic.
No.
It's
First
just
4-mana clone. This card's actually kind of sweet, though.
This card is very, very
yeah.
sweet.
Like just the fact that you can deal with the,
Yeah.
the 2020 for 1
Well,
mana
it's
again
just
with
a-
other use cases. Is
It's
nice.
just a. It's also just a flying man.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like
for
the
sure.
the floor of this is you could just play it as a 1/1 and equip a Jite to it and kill your opponent.
It's an
Yeah.
evasive creature
Yeah.
that'll hold a curiosity.
Yeah.
That also is occasionally a flying Ragavan or Merit Lodge
or Construct token.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
Construct token.
yeah, they keep making better and better tokens, and this is any of them.
I am so ready to copy my opponent's Psychic Frog and then feel so good about not including black in my deck.
or their questing beast.
Sure.
And
If I copy a questing druid with this card, it's over, right? Like it's just any of the grow creatures. I mean, Tarmogoyf.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, card's great.
Copy their Barrowglyph,
This-
but yours has flying.
I'd like to thank Bloomburrow for setting us up for like 5 Flying Men cards in a row. Flying Men, on a side tangent, Flying Men has gotten so much better and has started to, if not has already crept out of that portion of like, oh, I just can't hang anymore.
Right.
Like with the format being so much board, like all being board based and like every deck plays threats or whatever. And Jeskai is, well, Jeskai. It's like, it felt like this deck was dead, but now the threats are so much better. The disruption is better. It's wild.
I
This,
just need to
this
start
deck is
play-
real deal.
I need to play more Arc Trails as
No,
well.
you don't. Well, and that's another thing is that like even though people are playing Fury and even occasionally Pyrokinesis, like there are fewer Arc Trails or like Plague Engineer
Yeah.
kind of cards. Bowmasters is, but it's helpful. There's no Hornet Queens getting natural ordered into play.
It's like the thing is, if your removal spell doesn't kill the 3/3 Orc Cleric before it gets hit with the Forge for the +2/+2 counters, like you don't want to include that removal spell, right?
Yeah.
So Arc Trail's in a tough spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, this card obviously tons of use cases. Very fun card.
All right, next up, we have the Plume Creed Escort. This is a 2-mana 2/1 Bird Scout for 1 and a blue, has flash and flying, and when it enters, target creature you control gains hexproof until end of turn.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely hate this. I mean, we just talked about the absolute slam dunk that this is in Flying Man. Maybe if you're also a dedicated flash player, this is just a great evasive body that comes in cheap at your opponent's turn. And if you can blank one of your opponent's removal spells to try and, play an Arc Trail or something to deal with your flyer that already has Curiosity, well, you've got more built-in protection that is also proactive. It's niche, but it is extremely powerful in the decks that it is going to make better.
This might actually be a new effect per mana cost.
No, they had
do we have
there's
two?
merfolks that have been doing stuff like this already. Isn't there a
Rattle Chains is the closest analogy of
Okay.
the 2-mana 2/1 Flash Flyer ETB target spirit gains hexproof.
Right.
And then says spirits can be cast as though they had flash, which we were already doing that. But for the Flying Men deck, like you already play quite a few spirits.
I thought there was a merfolk that did basically
But
this
this
too.
is any
There's
creature.
Swift Warden, but that's at 3 mana.
Is it at 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
We haven't had target creature you control, right?
Yeah, this just hits
this,
any-
Yeah.
So this one, so
Well,
I'm right on that part,
technically,
right?
Cyber Cryptomancer has backup and hexproof, which is kind of like target.
Oh, right.
But this is
Yeah,
like
yeah,
such a
yeah,
clean,
yeah,
like
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
a threat, I'm evasive, I'm protecting.
I thought you were just talking about some anime for
Oh.
a second there. I'm like, I thought you were just trying to like get me. I like it indexed with Court of Calling as well, not just Flying Men.
Sure. Wheeler, you're up.
From the Commander set, we have Polywog Prodigy. 1 and a blue for a 1/3 Frog Wizard with Evolve. if you're not familiar with Evolve, whenever a creature you control enters, if that creature has greater power or toughness than this creature, you put a 1/1 counter on this creature. And whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell with mana value less than Polywog Prodigy's power, you draw a card. So I think anytime we get a 2-mana creature that is in blue, that has the ability to grow permanently, and also the ability to draw cards based off of opponents casting cheap non-creature spells, yeah, it's worth talking about. The hardest part about this card is finding a home.
I feel like this card's trying to trick us just because that Nuka Pena bird exists. It's like,
Oh,
look,
Ledger Shredder?
Look, it's Ledger Shredder, right? But it's not, right?
Yeah, it's not Ledger Shredder.
Yeah.
But like, I think there is something here. It's just kind of a weird card to play.
Tell you what, for sure. If you turn one this, then on my turn, my Mox feels so bad.
Yeah, if you play this and your opponent plays Moxen or Baubles into this card, then you're golden.
How are you feeling bad about this? I was thinking about what's the 1-mana.
Like, it's good for the Frog player, I mean. Like, I feel bad playing a Mox against this, because then you get to draw a card.
This isn't just like a slam dunk in most things for y'all?
Well,
we need to make it bigger. Like, if this, the fact that it's mana less than, not less than or equal to.
Sure.
So, like, you lose out on the cantrips or trading with Lightning Bolt.
I honestly haven't been playing a lot of blue cards lately. Like, I've been just sort of wobbling between black decks and multicolored green
Like,
decks.
maybe in, like, a Sultai mid-range deck that could play this. Like, that's fine. Like, you need to get this up to 2 power.
Yeah.
Right?
But the cost of inclusion is so low.
Yep.
Well,
Frog.
that's the problem with Magic the Gathering.
Right, I guess, right.
Is it's just like, what are you cutting to play this card? Especially if we're like blue-green or Sultai or blue-black. Like, we just got Psychic Frog. We have Nethergoyf now. Like, 2s are becoming 1s, 3s are becoming 2s, etc. Yeah, so this card has all the words on this card are good in a color and a mana value that is easy to cast. But where are we using it? And I don't have a great answer, or I don't have an answer that isn't like mid-range.
Like, it's not a Blue Moon card.
Yeah.
And it's not really a Jeskai card either.
No.
Right? So I played that. Tyler Woolley built that blue-black Reanimator mid-range deck. I could maybe see putting it in there.
Yeah.
Like, if you're something like that. Or some sort of Grixis 2-for-1s. Maybe it's a Grixis 2-for-1 card.
I keep going back to Sultai because Sultai also has cards that can trigger Evolve pretty easily. Tarmogoyfs, Nethergoyfs, and whatnot. But also Sultai typically plays, you'll have Bowmasters. You may have Hullbreacher and Leovold too. So, like, you're already in the colors of punishing your opponent for taking game actions. And this is kind of what that does.
No, this could go into Sultai Seeker Walk, right? Goes in Jace's deck, doesn't it?
Yep.
Actually.
Yeah.
No, that deck can use this card. Cool.
Great. Thanks, Polywog Prodigy.
All right, Nelly, you're up.
Storm Chaser's Talent. Hey, class enchantments are back.
Wow.
This is back from AFR, right? This is the
Yes.
first. Cool. So 1 blue. For the level 1 is when Storm Chaser's Talent enters, create a 1/1 blue and red otter creature token with prowess. So already, like, Monastery Swiftspear level, like, decent return for your investment on your first mana. It's got more words, though. Level 2 is 3 and a blue. When this class becomes level 2, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. And 5 and a blue for level 3. With whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue and red otter creature token with prowess. Now, for the additional 4 and then additional 6 mana, I think you're getting a very okay deal on your mana. Like, you paid for an entire Archaeomancer and you didn't get another 1/2 body, and then you paid for this emblem enchantment that makes otters instead of prowess triggers, right? And they have prowess. So it's basically like a Monastery Mentor at that point. It's kind of neat. Storm Chaser's Talent is sort of like a Monastery Swiftspear plus a Monastery Mentor. The original blue and red otter token that you get as soon as you cast it doesn't have haste, but you get all these other words instead. Overall, very into this card. Might try it in blue-red blitz. Yeah. Like, I don't actually care that much if we never put the 4 mana or the 6 mana into it. It's just like, this is a non-creature spell, hit triggering your other prowess stuff that makes a prowess creature.
I think you're probably putting 4 mana into to kill a thing.
I mean, yeah, I say that. Like
Depends
when,
what's in your graveyard.
when
You get
you're-
a
yeah.
callback or something.
yeah, when you're brewing, you try to brew, including cards for the worst case scenario. But then you play Magic, and it's like, yeah, you get to 7 mana all the time.
I think the worst case scenario is you have nothing in hand and you have 6 mana and you're like, I guess I'll level this up, right?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah, that is the worst. But
yeah, you're like
you know.
the game has gone long enough and I have nothing else to do with my mana and I'm flooding, so here we are.
Yeah, but even then, it's like this card offers you something to do when
Sure.
you're completely flooded.
Yeah.
Yeah, solid one. I don't know. Do you see it in other decks? I see it in anything that's like geared for prowess, but
I think that's
not
nice.
anything else.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, and the final blue card we're going to talk about today is the Thunder Trap Trainer. This is a 2-mana 1/2 Otter Wizard for 1 and a blue. It has Offspring 4, and if I'm correct, this is the first Offspring card we've talked about. So this is an additional cost that you can pay while you're casting the card. If you do, when this creature enters, you get a triggered ability that gives you a clone that is a 1/1 version of the same card. So it is exactly the same in every other characteristic of the spell other than it's a 1/1. When this creature enters, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from amongst them and put them into your hand. Wow, 4 deep. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So there's a long-standing tradition of blue cards. Normally they're 1/3s that come in and dig for stuff. I believe they used to only hit instants or sorceries.
Some hit any card.
Yeah.
There's no hard rule about it.
There's like the 3-mana 1/3s that would show you 3 cards. There was the one from the original Ravnica that you had to pay a white or you sacrificed it. Cortazar.
Right.
I'm thinking about. There's the one in a blue for 4 cards. That was Augur or something.
You're thinking of Augur of Bolus,
Augur of
which
Bolus.
is 3
That one.
cards, only instant source.
Yeah,
is only
that one saw a lot of play in the format. So those used to be staples. Used to be a lot of the control decks would play those as early blockers to deal with the control decks and get some card advantage while gumming up the board and hopefully like blocking up or something. This one's interesting because it does a similar job, but if you have more mana, it lets you do it twice.
Augur of Bolus was only ever good in the era of like
Goblin Guide.
pre Baleful Strix.
Yeah.
Where like you were desperate for any kind of way of surviving
Just-
against red.
Yeah, some way to block a raging goblin that you didn't hate, including in your deck.
Like where you legitimately were like, well, at least I have a 1/3 after I whiffed.
I used to cast Steel Wall, kids.
Yes.
I used to cast Steel Wall.
Yeah, Trinket Mage for Steel Wall.
Yeah, I
Real
felt so
thing.
smart. Yeah.
This is very funny to me because if this was a 2-mana 1/1 ETB draw card with Offspring, I think it'd be a slam dunk. And yet the condition and the search for 4 cards, it's a 2-mana 1/2. I'm lower on this and I don't know why.
Wait, hold on. So you're saying you're lower on this if this were a 2-mana 1/1?
That just said draw card.
Oh. Well, I mean, we have that.
I
Yeah,
know,
we're gonna
get
exactly.
that.
Yeah, we're getting into that later, and that I think this is weird. Maybe I like this in like the Esper Initiative decks with the Blink decks because that was already playing. God, what was the from the new Kamigawa set? There's the 2/1 with Hideaway.
You mean Watcher of the Way?
Well, yeah, that deck was playing Watcher of the Way. 'cause
That's
it
from
was-
Modern Horizons.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, it just looked like a ninja.
I honestly
from
don't
Kamigawa?
hate. I don't hate this card in
No,
Blue
I
Moon.
was gonna say
It's fine.
I think I like it now, specifically in those that role of you're playing all the flicker effects anyways. You're in an initiative deck. You need like mana stops. I don't know how relevant the Offspring is going to be, but as we've evaluated before, if it's late game and you've got the mana, sure, get me something. However, revealing a non-creature is kind of weird because specifically, it's if it's the initiative deck, I want to find those initiative creatures.
I haven't done the math on this on 100 cards yet, but the vibe check is that like, yeah, if I got like 10 to 14 creatures and like, sub 38 lands, like I'll play
should
this
probably
card.
hit. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And 6 mana, like I like this in Blue Moon.
Yeah, Blue Moon, or maybe if you're on Blue White Control, Boomer Hard Control, or whatever.
It
that's a
replaces
solid card.
itself and can block.
I take back the initiative thing. I like this less than the initiative.
Like I think
now.
this is a little better than Wall of Omens, maybe.
See, no,
Only has
that's what
2
I'm saying.
toughness.
That's what I'm saying. Draw a card is just so much better because draw a card never whiffs.
The ability to hit lands is pretty important for
Yeah,
these
that's
cheap
fair.
creatures.
That's fair too.
But like, yeah,
Some of your non-creature spells are lands now.
I would play this in that Bant deck actually.
Okay.
I am playing Wall of Blossoms, Wall of Omens,
Right.
Van Kodal,
Okay.
and friends. Yeah.
Let's move on to Black Wheeler.
We have Bandit's Talent. our first black card. For 1 and a black, it's an enchantment class. The first level says when it enters, each opponent discards 2 cards unless they discard a non-land card. Level 2 for a single black mana, and it says at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if that player has 1 or fewer cards in their hand, they lose 2 life. And then level 3 for 3 and a black, at the beginning of your draw step, you draw an additional card for each opponent who has 1 or fewer cards in hand. If you're a real sicko that wants to play 8-rack or Pox in our format, this is a card that you can play and can make your opponent discard cards. And then you can turn it into another copy of the rack. We may, in fact, be close to actually calling the deck 8-rack now.
Whoa, yeah, that's weird.
Which is kind of
Is
wild.
this like number 6 or something?
There's some pretty bad ones.
Yeah. Oh, right. There's original bad ones or Rackling or whatever. You have to
Yes.
include all of the versions. Maybe we already have it.
Yeah, but if we're just on like Shrieking Affliction, the rack, this card, like I guess you could also include, like if you're lumping in like Megrim and Liliana's Caress.
Then that's like 5 kind of okay ones.
Yeah, there's probably some others that were not.
I just called Megrim okay. I don't know how I feel about myself.
Memory Jar is giving you a call right now. What did you say?
What did you say?
Yeah, it's you were talking about how you like this just as a discard spell.
Yeah, I'm into this card because in mono black aggro, sometimes we just play all the cards that are less than 3 mana that are like they discard 2. And this has more words on it than Wrench Mind, and is even easier to cast.
I
right?
believe, to quote you, whoa, this is better than Whispers of Emrakul.
Yes. yes. It is better than. Or no, I was reading it at the time. I'm like, hold on. I think this might be better than Whispers of Emrakul.
Which is just like, oh god, I hope it is, dude.
Is it okay in Nellie's brain? Like,
Is Nellie's brain okay?
yeah. But no, I'm excited to try this in aggressive black decks like mono black aggro and I don't know Rakdos aggro, but also obviously the Rack deck. That's it.
I think people traditionally undervalue classes. Like, they're pretty good. They just give you mana sinks.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, do we play Wizard class enough in our format? Because we play Ranger class enough. Like, people play Ranger class in Canadian.
I don't think people play Ranger class enough.
I've been putting Ranger
Like in
class in
Gruul
decks.
Monsters?
There's only 2 classes I've seen. One is Ranger class. It's the one that gives you the 2/2 when it
and
ETBs.
+1/+1 counters every time
Yeah,
you attack.
and then the other one that's kind of fire is the Lance one. That like
Oh, the Druid class?
the Druid class. I think those are the only 2 I've seen in like any list.
Paladin class is probably undervalued
Sorry,
as well.
and the Legends Matter class.
Oh, Bard class.
Bard class.
Do you ever
Yes.
play Fighter class in your decks?
I
I play fighter class in equipment.
I play Fighter class in your decks. Yeah.
all right. Maybe classes got more game than we thought.
Well, it's just anytime a card is also like anytime you have a card that does a thing that is a reasonable amount of mana, that you can then pump additional mana in at
Sure.
different points in times for synergistic abilities. Like that's
Yeah.
that's just something Magic players typically undervalue flexibility. I forget what the meme is.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Magic players do undervalue investing in their future, right? Like
Fair enough.
they in real life and in the cards.
Yeah.
And I think this is one that you're okay doing that.
I want to draft now.
All right. Let's move on.
Okay, Dark Star Augur is here for fans of Dark Confidant. It's 2 and a black for a 2/3 Bat Warlock with offspring, a single black. It has flying, and at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card in your hand. You lose life equal to its mana value. So someone already said it best on Twitter, like a pro. I can't remember who, but they were just like, this is a really interesting card because the choice of whether to put the second Dark Confidant down on the table when you already have one has like long been an interesting test of skill in Magic. And, you know, that only usually comes up in 60 card formats where you can play 4 of a card. But this card just has both Dark Confidants stapled together, so you can choose to have 2 if you want. I like it a lot because it has flying. 3 toughness obviously is only 3 toughness, but for 4 mana you can get 2 of your value creature. They both have flying. And yeah, I'm a big fan of Dark Confidants. So I will be trying this. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly which decks to put it in. It's a bit of an ask for mono black aggro, but maybe Rakdos mid-range or Boomer Jund. I could see putting this in Boomer Jund. Which is a deck I've been trying lately.
Most places you want Bob you should probably consider playing this.
Sure.
Like flying in an actual butt.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
This is going to teach a whole new generation how to die to their own bobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. The thing is, like, the play pattern of Bob is usually you put it down and then you hope you don't have to block with it. Or, like, sometimes you're happy to block with it if they have something that's more important. But usually you want to untap with it, and then it's kind of awkward. You don't want to attack with it or block with it. But this is, like, so many play patterns where you can just be like, well, if they have a combat trick and they're attacking their 2-2 into my 2-3, they have to play their combat trick, and I still have a 1-1 Bob. So,
Ha
haha, hee hee hoo hoo.
Next up, Feed the Cycle. This is a 2-mana instant for 1 and a black. As an additional cost to cast this spell, forage or pay a black. To forage, you either exile 3 cards from your graveyard or sack a food, destroy a target creature or planeswalker. This is beautiful. I like this a lot. The fact that it's non-conditional. We've had a lot of very powerful, very cheap removal lately that's been like total power and toughness less than 5 or mana value less than this. This is non-conditional. You just have to sack a food, exile some cards, or pay an additional mana. This is a slam dunk in so many decks. Yeah.
Yeah, this feels like the cards so far that we've seen out of this set that we're still going to be, seeing in decks 5 years from now or something.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is brand new. Hey babe, wake up! New top tier black removal just dropped.
It's pretty good.
Yep.
All right, Wheeler.
Fell. 1 and a black for a sorcery. Destroy target creature. I'm going to save the rant about how I said, isn't it interesting both this and Feed the Cycle are in the same set? And then Twitter was like, actually, here's why. And then just gave the worst reasoning of anything you've ever seen.
I think
so
it's
I'm
interesting.
not going to talk about that.
Okay.
I do think it's interesting. I don't think this card is particularly interesting.
Got
I'm not-
fantastic art, though.
I'm not super high on this card. Sorcery speed, just breaking any creature is nice, but sorcery speed, no flexibility, and just like what deck is excited to play this? A lot of the decks that look for this kind of card, they also want the flexibility of like keeping their mana open to potentially like counter another spell or maybe just like cast another creature to the board or flash threats or whatever. And the only spots that I can see this wanting this card already have access to more flexible versions with like Dreadbore and Molten Collapse. So it just feels a little unnecessary. Maybe there's like a mono black deck that just wants to have one copy of Destroy Whatever. But it's hard for me to look at this card and be like, I want to play this, especially just after Feed the Cycle,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too bad because it's a beautiful painting by A.M. Sartor. Well done. And fantastic art direction as well. But yeah, every deck that would be like, oh yeah, we certainly include this, already has Dreadbore.
Yeah,
like
we
they
just-
have Dreadbore. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Nelly.
Hazel's Brewmaster from the Commander set. 3 and a black for a Squirrel Warlock with Menace, and whenever Hazel's Brewmaster enters or attacks, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard and create a food token. And foods you control have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Hazel's Brewmaster. So a lot of interesting things going on here. I don't know if we've hit an enters card yet, but they've shortened enters the battlefield to enters. That's it. That's the rules explanation. So fantastic stuff here. It is 4 mana instead of 3, and we've been getting a bunch of 3 and even 2 mana ways to muck your opponent's graveyard in black. But this thing is also a cool Necrotic Ooze that makes a food possibly every turn. So you've got your mucking your graveyard. It has Menace, so hopefully it can attack multiple times. 4 butt gets around Lightning Bolt. And then you can infinite combo if you have a Devoted Druid in a graveyard. You can make infinite green off of your food. And then if you hit multiple different things, you can get all the various combos that a Necrotic Ooze could
Just
get.
target your Gristlebrand.
Sure, absolutely target your Gristlebrand with this. Target your Walking Ballista maybe, if you can also target your Phyrexian 6-drop.
Devourer.
Yeah, target both of those on an enter and then an attack. And then your food token can mill yourself out and dome them for 1,000,000. Very cool card. When I first saw it, my first thought was like, well, 4 mana, I already have all these sweet 3-drops that muck my opponent's graveyard. But then I read all the way to the bottom of the card, and I was like, Okay.
This is an all-star in the food deck.
Sure.
And not even for like weird creature combo shenanigans. This is just a mid-range beater that does exactly what that deck wants to do. And very, 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 very significant to the food deck. This is one of the few high-value food-generating creatures you have that is not legendary.
Right.
That deck gets absolutely hosed by Caracas to the point that I'm considering putting Ghost Quarter into the deck because I don't have the points for Strip Mine. There's got probably something better than Ghost Quarter currently.
At least Tectonic Edge
Yeah.
before you go Quarter.
I actually really like that new red Stone Rain, or it's a mountain. I know that
Sure.
your food deck's not playing red, but
Yeah. So there are a lot of very mid cards that are included in the food deck currently just because they have the word make a food on them. And this being a finisher threat with unbelievable amounts of upside is, this is an auto include, an instant include in a deck that's only getting better.
yeah, exile your Gretel or your hobbitses.
Yeah.
Fantastic
or just,
stuff.
Just tax their graveyard, right? Like,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and then next up, is this the other food card from the Commander deck? or
It
no?
is.
Yeah, I was hoping these would be back to back. The Insatiable Frugivore. This is a 4-mana 2/4 rat berserker for 3 and a black. When it enters, create a food token. Then you may exile 3 cards from your graveyard. If you do, repeat this process. And then 3 and a black and sacrifice X foods. I don't know why that broke my brain.
Sacrifice Twitter foods.
Yeah, creatures you control get +X/+O and gain menace until end of turn. So this is, again, just an absolutely phenomenal card. Now, importantly, this is not a tap ability. So when you cast this, if you have enough mana, and that deck produces a ton of mana because it's playing Cradle, it's playing a lot of the effects that lets your tokens tap for mana.
Night of
So
Sweets,
Night of the Sweets Revenge, as well as the 3-mana Baldur's Gate card.
Yeah.
Jahira.
Jahira, thank you, also plays, Academy. It's got giga mana. Now, previously, the only effect the food deck that had for this was off of Pippin, which was +3/+O and haste. And that's a tap ability. Did I get that wrong?
+3/+3.
Oh, pardon me. +3/+3 and haste. And that's a tap ability. And you have to sack 4 foods. This is huge. I mean, the deck is just getting more and more real. And again, very importantly, this is non-legendary.
You could also just pay 4 and give your creatures menace, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's kind of that's
cool.
just kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like relevant in an initiative world.
Yes.
Fun fact, humans are frugivores. Just like means that your primary source of calories is fruit, and that's kind of like how we mostly existed.
I didn't know what that word meant. I thought it had to do something with like fungi. But
No, it means an eater of fruit.
So the food deck players are eating good. Huh?
Excellent.
On to the next card. Iridescent Vine Lasher. Of course, you two get really cool food payoffs, and I get this stupid lizard.
You get a Lance card.
I get a 1-mana 1/2 with Offspring for 2 that says landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, this creature deals 1 damage to target opponent. Maybe I'm a little harsher on this card than most, but this is the absolute kind of card that just like the worst Magic players get excited about. I don't mean worst in terms of like personality. I mean in terms of deck choice. And for some of them, maybe it's both. Maybe they're tied. But it's just like, I don't know. I look at this card and I'm like, oh, well, thank God they used a card. Like they used a slot in their deck to play this. The lands decks don't struggle to win the game.
No.
And so
Struggle to not die.
this is like to give this some credit to this card is that you could include this in like the black-green depths lands combo because that deck typically plays like creature tutors to find Hex Mage for the dark depths and whatnot. And so like I guess technically you could use a creature tutor to find this card and win the game when you're doing lands loops, but Tireless Tracker would have done that anyways. I guess like as an aggressive card, I'm not convinced either because like it's just the body is pretty unappealing and requires you to hit repeatable lands, which is not a thing aggressive decks are known to do.
If I may, So there's already 3 effects that exist in Magic that do stuff like this. There's the deserts that come into play in ping when you loop them, and if you're infinitely looping lands, that's easier to get than the lizard. There's return to Hagra,
Retreat to
retreat to Hagra, which at the very least also heals you because it drains them, and so it's a life source that like sort of offsets the fastball damage. And if you're a real degen, you could also be playing the 5 mana Obnixilis, which was something I used to try and do to kill people with it. And as somebody who has walked down this path, all I can say is don't do it.
The thing is, this is 1 mana. So if your context is I have fast bond and a way to not die and a wasteland and Ramnap excavator, right? Then like this is only 1 more mana.
Yeah, but at
So it's
that
got
point,
that going for it.
you probably already have infinite life and infinite mana, and like
Right.
that's the problem in the land stack is not how do you win once you're infinite. The problem in the land stack is how do you not die before you become infinite. Putting stuff like this dilutes your ability to get to the infinite life or like disrupt your opponent or tutor package.
Usually when you have the infinite landfall, you also have infinite mana.
Or just like, how do I fit this card into my deck?
Right.
Like the lands decks are already packed to the brim.
I do want to say shout out to anyone who wants to play Scape Shift because like like usually you get to 7 lands and you'll find a Valakut, but you could play this with Offspring first, you're on 7 mana, and then you Scape Shift for the additional 4 and boom, it's 14 damage without even needing a Valakut. Right?
We've blown
So
the
we're
meta wide open.
sorry, we're giving up the cost of inclusion of lands to play this
Yeah.
1/3.
Now you don't have to put 100 mana in, or 100
You know what I
mountains
would
in your deck.
play over this? I would play Jaddy Offshoot over
Dan,
this.
you know what I hate? Having to play the best color in the format in my deck.
Sorry,
I
it's
don't know.
Iridescent Vine Lasher. I went as hard as I could for you,
No,
buddy.
that's fair. I mean, here's a question: are you playing this in mono black aggro?
No, I mean Wheeler.
1 mana.
Wheeler covered it. Yeah.
yeah.
If it was a 2/1, I know we don't
Sure,
like to play that
sure,
game,
sure,
but
sure.
no, Wheeler covered it. The fact that it's a 1 power creature.
Please
for
talk
1 mana.
about the good black creature now.
Yes. Now we get to talk about Osteomancer
Yeah.
Adept, 1 and a black for a 2/2 squirrel warlock with Death Touch and tap. Until end of turn, you may cast creature spells from your graveyard by foraging in addition to paying their other costs. If you cast a spell this way, that creature enters with a finality counter on it. So, pretty rad, like probably appearing in the food deck because it has forage. It's a 2/2 Death Touch for 2, so decent stats already. Even in an aggressive deck, you could make an argument for playing it if you like want another sort of Luris effect. It's not exactly Underworld Breach with legs, but it does say you may cast creature spells. So like it's not as if you have to tap, choose 1 target creature, and then pay the mana and forage and get that back. You might storm off if like your next creature that enters is a cantrip or mills yourself or whatever. So a lot of potential play, like a lot of upside and also a really high floor on a 2/2 Death Touch for 2.
Card sick.
I would like to try it in mono black aggro. I could also see it happening in Jund or green black.
Recurring Nightmare. Decks that
Yeah.
care about and interact with their graveyard.
Yeah.
Finality counter is a little weird with creature combo decks because
That's
so
fair.
many creature combos use the graveyard, but like
think-
sometimes I don't know, like even playing this in like Sultai Seeker Walk.
Yeah.
I think
Or
maybe
4 color
Mardu
no red.
Initiative could get it.
So
you
like
know?
finality counters are such a weird place because on the one hand you're like, if I play this I never get it back. But on the other hand you're like, wow, I get to cast all of my creatures twice? That seems pretty good.
Yeah, complaining unless it's like very specifically related to like what your deck's looking to
Yes.
do. I feel like complaining about the exile and finality counters is like pretty close to complaining about how milling makes it so that you lose your cards. Right? Like it's just like,
You're like, how much upside do you need?
yeah, you still get to cast your stuff again and get some value. This
Even-
card's great.
Yeah, the finality counters don't even stop it from getting bounced.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you
It's
flicker
only if
it,
it would
that it's
die.
back. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, next up, we have, I need it to be bigger because I can't read the word.
Rotten Mouth Viper.
Rotten Mouth, thank you. Rotten Mouth Viper is a 6 mana 6/6 elemental snake. Elemental, write that down. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice any number of non-land permanents. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each permanent sacked this way. When it enters or attacks, put a blight counter on it. Then, for each blight counter on it, each opponent loses 4 life unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. I have a hard time evaluating this one. I don't think I ever want to cast it. I think I want to cheat this into play, but the cost addition, pardon me, the cost reduction, thank you, does offer a lot of flexibility on this. It's a pretty big clock, and the blight counters, the ability to accelerate how quickly you end the game is kind of wild. Like the first swing, if nothing's happening, they're potentially losing 10 life on that first attack.
They could.
That's
If they want. Yeah.
That's a big spooky.
I'd like this for aristocrats because it gives you an uncounterable sack your entire board if you need to do it. And then also just make a big donkey. Yeah.
And it's one less black pip that you absolutely have to pay than that turtle thing. Do you know what I'm talking about? Gorex?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Gorex.
it's the same kind of thing.
Gore-Tex jacket?
Gore-Tex jacket, yeah. Which is a card I kind of like and is fun, but is not quite
But this
enough.
this
card is
like a house.
Yeah, this card actually slaps. No, I think you'll probably cast it sometimes, but I think it's correct to be putting it into a deck with Reanimate, maybe even the Initiative Reanimate spell if you're like that sort of deck, like a bigger, juicier mid-range deck. But yeah, this thing attacking, I think, is the truth.
It's not a bad target for persist.
Yeah.
Like if you want to play more reanimation targets that are non-legendary. Yeah, kind of nice.
No, I love that.
All right, Wheeler, take us home with black cards.
All right, Nelson, take over this card because I hate it.
Okay. I thought you just told me it was fine the other day. I thought you liked it.
No, I said in Gladiator.
Okay,
I was talking about in Minecraft.
Minecraft. No, wait, Minecraft. Okay, it's Season of Loss. 3 black for a sorcery that says choose up to 5 paw prints worth of modes. You may choose the same mode more than once. So the paw prints are just currency that you use on this card while it's resolving. You get 5 and you spend them. That's the whole rules explainer. 1 paw print. Each player sacrifices a creature. 2 paw prints. Draw a card for each creature you controlled that died this turn. 3 paw prints. Each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Okay, so a lot to unpack here. 5 mana, 5 creature Wrath of God. It's 5 mana, but it's a flexible Wrath of God, so we give it that out. Although it doesn't always kill everything. Although it does kill indestructible creatures if they have less than 5. Okay. 5 to 2 paws and then 3 paws into sacrifice a creature and then 2 paws into draw a card. Oh, man. Wheeler's falling asleep.
Why do you like this?
I'm getting there.
Not going through the permutations. Okay.
Okay, we're not going to go through
You read all the modes, right? Like,
yeah, I know, but I want to, massage it.
To his credit, it does help to translate this card into what this card actually is.
Sure.
There's a lot of different potentials on everything every time you have a modal card like this. It's sort of like a choose 3, but it's more complicated than that,
Sure.
right? So it's just like a card that might get you out of a spot where you have to kill a bunch of creatures. It's a card that might get you out of a spot where you don't have enough gas, and it's also a card that might win the game for you. So like there's not a lot of cards like that. Like, how many Wrath of Gods are also a win condition?
I mean, typically,
that's
Wrathing
as
is
concise as I can say it.
Yeah, Wrathing is the win condition normally.
Okay.
I don't know. That's okay.
I mean, I disagree. Wrath is the removal spell.
I think this is 5 mana.
It's 5 mana. Yeah, that is the biggest knock against it for sure. And we don't have an out for that. But I'm going to try it in big black. Yeah. No, I think the fact that it says draw a card on it makes it pretty exciting in, Soul Ring black deck.
That's fair. Yeah. All right, let's go to Wheeler, and then we'll go to me, and then we'll reset.
In the commander product, we have Agate Instigator. 1 in a red for a 1/3 lizard rogue with offspring for 1 in a red. Whenever another creature you control enters, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. So this was a bit of a late add to the spreadsheet, and one that admittedly, when I created the spreadsheet, I skipped over. But it is impact tremors on a creature. It is impact tremors on 2 creatures with the offspring. And kind of importantly, it's an impact tremor. Oh, it's a 1/3. Oh, this is like a downside for this card. I was all ready to talk about how, I think it's kind of cool that we could have like an Allurin deck that uses this as a part of the kill. Or like take a note from creature combo decks from other formats where it's shockingly easy to assemble a kill with this kind of card, especially because it's attached to a 2-mana creature, that if you're worried about removal, you can like double up on those creatures.
Why doesn't it work with Allurin? I thought Allurin just has to be mana value 3.
No, what I'm complaining about is that one of the talking points I was going to say is that you can find it off either recruiter.
Oh, you were
no,
hoping it was a
only
1/1,
one-
and
only
it being a
one
1/3.
recruiter.
Oh, I thought it was a
makes slightly worse.
1/2. The fact that
Right.
it's red. Why is it a red 1/3? So I'm less into it because of that, but it is nice that it is on a 2-mana creature. Like that is, if this is the kind of effect that you're looking for Allurin with red, which is another underexplored aspect of Allurin, because you have some cheap gating creatures in red more than most. Like a Jund Allurin Recurring Nightmare deck is something that has popped up like as a cute brew that is shockingly good, and this is the kind of card that you can maybe consider playing, especially because it makes a second body for your Recurring Nightmare. Yeah.
All right, next up, I've got the Blacksmith's Talent. This is another class. Single red, when it enters the battlefield, create a colorless equipment artifact token named Sword. And equipped creature gets +1/+1 and equips for 2. For 2 and a red, at the beginning of combat on your turn, attach target equipment you control to up to 1 target creature you control. And in the third chapter, 3 and a red, during your turn, equipped creatures you control have double strike and haste. So, first mode, you get the equipment. Second mode, you get the free equip. The third mode, you get an ultimate like a planeswalker. You get the final beep beep mode. Now, this is for a particular style of equipment deck that Wheeler tends to enjoy a little bit more than I do. Wheeler enjoys the giant hammer, Cauldra complete, Argentum armor style, and I have a tendency to enjoy lower to the ground, cheaper to equip, more efficient threat styles, which is neat. The problem is I tried Wheeler's style of deck one time too, and I tried to play it more like a combo deck instead of like a slow eventuality style. That being said, I think this is fine for the Wheeler style of equipment deck. If you like to take it a little bit slower, if you want to try and set up a big turn. You're distracting me so much, man.
if you got to play every hammer time effect, play this. Right?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. This 1-mana make 2 permanents. Love it.
I mean, that's hard
But
too.
both permanents are super useful.
Sometimes you just need equipment
Yeah.
and density. That level 2 is pretty good.
Yeah, you're including it for the level 2.
The level
right?
2
You're
is
including
the
it so
main
you can-
reason.
you can suit your Argentum armor.
The level 1 is kind of actively bad. I don't love that.
It hits Metalcraft.
I mean, it does help with Metalcraft. And the other issue with this is 2 issues. One is finding a space for the deck because there's already effects kind of like this. I mean, I think I'm trying to get Pure Steel Paladin online or into play more reliably.
Sure.
And that kind of leads to the second problem, which is finding this. Because it's easy to tutor for equipments, especially like very efficiently tutor for equipments, and it's easy to find your creatures. Other than basically the free roll of Enlightened Tutor, which you're already playing, I don't know how often you're going to want to find this unless you just naturally draw.
Yeah, you're never tutoring
Boros,
for this.
baby. I keep the best cards on top of the deck.
I don't think you want to tutor for this. You're just including it as another way
Yeah.
to cheat your Argentum armor.
Yeah.
then. Yeah.
So there you go. There's my evaluation. All right, back to Wheeler, and now we've reset.
Byway Barterer. 2 and a red for 3/3 Raccoon Rogue with Menace, and whenever you expend 4, you may discard your hand, and if you do, draw 2 cards. The first time we've seen expend N is as you spend your N mana, in this case 4th total mana this turn, casting spells. So importantly, not abilities, just let's say I play this and then I play a lightning bolt. That is the 4th mana I've spent on spells, and so this is going to trigger. I want to like this more than I do. It's got ancient 2 mana, very important. It is a 3/3 menace, which is really like a pretty reasonable stat line. I just don't know how often expend 4 is going to come up unless I'm like double spelling. I don't know if I want this in medium red. I don't know if I want this in mono red, like aggro, burn, or even the prowessy versions. Maybe in, as Robin Sorensen and I have called it, schmedium red, where it's somewhere in the middle. It's like more like, what if we still played 3 drops in red deck wins? And that gave us more of an advantage in matchups where shock your blocker, attack with Jackal Pup just ain't ain't
It just
hitting.
doesn't cut it
Yeah,
anymore.
I could maybe see this in Gruul Monsters too. That's a deck that can like multi-spell with elves and
Yeah.
hit that 4th mana. You just get into an awkward spot where it's a bit too big for the cheaper decks, and then for the bigger decks, your hand might get a little clunky anyways, and so you're just kind of pitching gas or just not, and then you paid like 3 mana for a Boggart Brute or whatever.
I'm not a medium red pilot, but another time when we have time, we should go over why you don't want this in medium red.
Sure.
Yeah.
Same reason for Gruul Monsters is basically.
Yeah.
I just think it's a bit clunky.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Nelly.
Coruscation Mage. Did I say that right?
Corsication.
Corsication.
Corsication. Corsication.
Why is it Corsication?
No,
Coruscation.
That's
Yeah,
what-
I think you nailed it the first
Corsication.
time.
Right. Anyways, it's a 1 and a red 2/2 Otter Wizard with Offspring 2 that says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. That's right. It's another one of those archers / gutter snipes / I don't know, that ether wall thing. Anyways, turns your spells into extra damage that hit your opponent's face. Play it next to burn spells. It's great. If you have extra mana, you get 2 of them.
And this one's a 2 mana 2/2 compared to a lot of the other ones.
Usually only get a 2/1. Yeah.
It's better than the other ones we're already playing.
Yeah.
And it's a wizard.
Yeah. And an otter. Ooh. Yeah, no, this is a slam dunk in basically red deck wins and no other deck.
All right. Next up, the Ember Heart Challenger. 2 mana 2/2 Mouse Warrior for 1 in red. It has haste, it has prowess, and it has Valiant. Whenever the Challenger becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card. Now, important to note, I think this is our first Valiant card. Valiant is different from Heroic, which is from the Theros block, and has seen a lot of play since then. Importantly is the word ability. An ability is stuff like equipping equipment to it. So it's not just pump spells. The first time you equip something, you get value. Finally, we're busting Shuko. I mean, it took forever, but boy, start spec buying those cards right now. I bet you they're going to go up.
Please, for the love of God, do not buy Shukos now.
Don't buy Shukos. Wait until at least
Wait until
August.
it gets banned.
I love this card. I think so. There's already a 2 mana 2/2 with haste and prowess in red. No,
Is there? I don't know. Haste and prowess together. There's Monastery Swift Spear.
Is this just a second? Is this just like Monastery Swiftspear already?
Like among like cards that cost less than 6
Yeah,
or whatever.
'cause
Can you think of any other haste
Because
prowess
also,
creatures?
I thought the Dragon set.
Okay.
What?
Am I confusing it with the 2 mana with mentor with prowess and lifelink? Maybe
Seeker of the Way?
Seeker of the
Seeker of the Way.
I think I conflated 2 cards together, didn't I?
My
there?
brain told me there was no 2/2 haste prowess with this mana cost.
I
There
didn't-
may be one in a different cost.
I
Sure.
didn't think so, but comment all the haste and prowess creatures
Sure.
you know.
So this is already. Are you correct?
I'm tutoring.
Okay,
Sorry,
yeah.
tutoring. Holy
So
crap.
already, just as a haste prowess card, this is cracked.
Hey, buddy.
This is phenomenal, and
Yeah.
the Valiant just sets it over the top for me. I'm probably going to play this in the wrong deck. I'm excited to play this in red-white equipment, but any of the prowess decks, any of like the red, blue, X spells matter. Is this a Jeskai card?
No.
This is not a Jeskai card.
No, it's a target it with brute force, or I guess Shuko in your case, card. There was another 2-power prowess haste creature from MKM.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Not Card Market. Murders Karlov Man.
Oh, right, with disguise.
Yes.
Right, that's also a 2-power. It's 2/1,
but that
right?
is 1 toughness.
1 toughness, yeah.
This gets
right.
through Bowmaster.
They're giving us 2-power prowess haste creatures this year.
This is very, very, very spicy.
I
I
could-
like this a lot.
I could see this in any like fast-ish mid-range deck that has like Urza Saga and Shadow Spear too, you know. But
Berserk.
it's going to be better in your Berserk Brute Force Giant Growth decks for
I mean,
sure.
you're right, but I don't
Yeah.
like it. I mean, actually, we like this card. It's flexible. It's going to see a lot of homes. It's
Yes.
pretty pushed, and enjoy killing people with this brave Mouse Warrior.
This is a good
Yeah.
magic card.
Yeah.
Good
So
magic card.
is Hired Claw. 1 mana for a 1/2 lizard mercenary. Whenever you attack with one or more lizards, Hired Claw deals 1 damage to target opponent. Pay 1 in red, put a 1/1 counter on Hired Claw. Activate only if an opponent lost life this turn and only once each turn. This is a cracked 1-drop.
Yes.
This is much like Scorch Spitter or Spitties, as we call them locally.
No, we don't.
Oh, Spitties!
Spitties?
At the club?
Yeah, Spitty's at the club, smoking stogies. That's just some Victoria-based Canlander humor for you. Yeah, this card's great. It's there's a worse version of this card that saw play up until people were like, I wish this didn't have 1 toughness. And now it does. And it's got a busted ability. Being able to put a counter on this from your own attack or your own sources of damage, or your opponent fetching a land, is kind of great. Like, it's just a really powerful mana sink. And who knows, maybe you play both this and Spitties, because if you play this and it doesn't have haste,
oh my God,
you
Spitties
attack
is
with
a lizard.
Spitties, and Spitties is a lizard. So Spitties is going to trigger this, and maybe there's some other lizards. Who knows? I just want to keep saying Spitties.
No,
or I want to pass to Nelson,
honestly,
so I stopped saying Spitties.
When I first looked at this card, I wasn't impressed. But now that you've explained the regular play pattern, I'm thinking of it more as a 2-drop. And the 2-drop that it is pretty sweet. It's a 2/3 that hits them when it attacks.
So
you just have to put in 1 mana investment.
It also makes combat math a nightmare for them, because the triggered ability applies before declare blockers. So you can threaten the pump for a block even before it happens, and just keep the option open and not do it. So it
or you can do it and then do it every turn.
Am I going to pump this Figure of Destiny? Who knows?
Who knows? Block and find out.
Who knows? I might forget that I could do that.
Am I going to read about a different card? Who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe. Stay tuned and then learn about Manifold Mouse. That's a set of words right there. 1 and a red for a 1/2 mouse soldier with Offspring 2. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, target mouse you control gains your choice of double strike or trample until end of turn. Okay. So probably pretty good with equipments.
You don't like this?
No, I built Naya Double Strike literally hours ago, and I cut this card.
That's fair.
I bet you don't miss it.
The fact that it doesn't have double strike defensively is kind of a bummer.
Okay.
Yes. And that can only target itself, basically, or the Offspring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you make the Offspring, you do get to give something double strike trample, which is kind of spicy.
For
but
the low cost of 4 mana.
I mean, honestly, something we didn't talk about that I'd probably play over this is there's an uncommon in white. It's 2 and a white for a 1/3 double strike flying vigilance bird.
Oh yeah, I like that.
That card
the 3
slaps.
mana, the 3 mana 1/3 flying
And there was the old
vigilance double strike.
There was the old Chris Sutherland Naya double strike list, and he was playing. There's from original Zendikar block. It was a 3 mana 1/1 double strike bird for 1 white, and that made the cut.
You're thinking of Skyhunter Skirmisher from Fifth Dawn?
Oh, Fifth
Please
Dawn.
put some respect on its name.
Yeah.
I'd curve that bad boy into GTA Equip so many
See
times.
what I mean? You play that on 3, you have the GTA on 4. I like those better than I like this mouse, which breaks my heart to say.
We didn't talk about Shrike Force during the white cards, but
why? That's because the card's bad.
Yeah, it's hard. You know, we talked about your Manifold Mouse because it's a rare. People are going to ask us about it, but yeah. In a world of seasoned Dungeoneers, it's hard to imagine making 2 1/1 mice that want to give double strike to your other mice.
To give a very quick nod to double strike is like, if you're going to do that, you have to be quick, cheap, fast, and just like pray. Like, we don't have room for 3 mana or conditional things. Like, you got to play there are 10 2-mana double strikers.
Yeah.
We don't need any, or 11. We don't need any more.
This is the style of equipment deck that I like to play, and I'm low on this. So.
All right, moving on.
Next up, we have the Might of the Meek.
Sorry, one moment.
Is Might of the Meek a reprint?
Nope.
Okay.
There we go.
Might of the Meek is a 1 mana instant. Target creature gains trample until end of turn. It also gets +1/+0 until end of turn if you control a mouse and draw a card. The trample and draw a card are the most important parts of this entire card. This is very good for the spells, matter, cantrip, prowess, or oops, I have comboed and killed you, much like Berserk style decks.
Yeah, we have cards similar to this. This is the first one that does exactly target creature, trample, draw.
Yeah.
That at instant speed is also important.
Maybe there's a very small world in which the infect players like this, but otherwise, probably not.
I kind of just like this in Rakdos midrange. You have a bunch of death touch creatures anyway, and like it means you actually get the initiative back. Trample and death touch together is so good.
I know how that works. Yes, it's quite good. Okay.
All right, and the last card for today,
I just think it goes in more than one deck.
Sunspine Lynx. 2 red for a 5/4 elemental. Cat. Players can't gain life. Damage can't be prevented. When Sunspine Lynx ETBs, it deals damage to each player equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. Yeah, this card's pretty good. It's expensive in red, but that's okay. because there are more red decks than mono red. I like this for medium red. I like this for Gruul monsters. Honestly, I kind of like this for medium red. Like, Price of Progress is instant speed, 2 damage per land, and not well, I was going to say not symmetrical. In a lot of spots, it is like barely symmetrical.
It's not symmetrical because it's a
Incredible.
red card.
Yeah.
But this card's a red card too.
Yeah, this card rules. It's I don't think it's going to be as ubiquitous as like you would expect this kind of thing to be, just because it's a 4-drop. This card would have like caused people, Canlander players 10 years ago, to faint.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
It would.
Can't gain life.
There was a while that Canadian Highlander had 14 points and Jace the Mind Sculptor and Top were on the list, and like
Yeah.
this would have been on the list too.
Yeah, you had to half point cards that couldn't get half point in the previous system. We upped the point count.
this is big. It's good against True Name. It's good against
Questing Beast.
Questing Beast.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it trades with Questing
Yeah.
Beast. That's pretty good. Yeah, it's just a 5/4 on 4 mana in the right color with 3 powerful abilities.
Why'd I say good against Questing Beast? I was thinking the Questing Beast line of how it kills True Name. is
Well, it
why.
does
Yeah.
trade with Questing Beast, which is
Yeah.
honestly pretty good against Questing.
Yeah,
a lot.
adds to the number of
Can't
cards in your deck that can block questing,
Oh, man.
which is
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
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 All right, friends, that is going to do it for part 1 today. Bit of a longer one, but a lot of fun cards in this set. Reminder, if there's any cards that you think we missed that you want to talk about, let us know in the comments down below. Northern Hunter is brought to you by you with your support over the Patreon over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. I've been Serge, joined by Nelly,
Yes.
Wheeler. Shout out to James on Tech,
I ate the whole bag of Doritos.
my man.
Wait, actually?
No, not
Oh,
at
thank God.
Doritos, we mentioned you like 4 times. Call us. Call us.
Thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned for part 2 coming up later on. Bye-bye.